Beep beep. Well, they don't do that in the 60s, but you know, beep 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 beep. Yeah, what we got here is a 1968 number 21 Lesney Matchbox Foden concrete mixer, as it says on the bottom, I believe. Yeah, made in England by Lesney, Matchbox series, Foden concrete truck number 21. This was the vehicle that replaced the Comma milk float that I did in the previous video. Comma milk float was produced up to 67, and then this replaced it from 1968 until 1972. There's two versions of this particular model. There's this version, which is the early version, which just has the standard Lesney wheels on, and then there is another version that was produced from 1970 until 1972, which has super fast axles and super fast wheels on. Yep. So in real life, this is a Foden S36, I believe. Is it S36 or S34? And if I don't tell you which one it is, that's going to really bother me. Yeah, it's it's Foden S34 8-wheel concrete mixer. The S34 was produced by the Foden company as kind of a kind of a heavy truck sort of thing. You know, when you're needing 8 wheels on a truck, it means that you're going to be putting some heavy loads on there. So they did also produce a version with 6 wheels and produce a version with 4 wheels that went under different designations, but this is the S34. The Foden company started life as a manufacturer of agricultural parts in the late 19th century. They made agricultural machines, stuff like that, before eventually going into the business of making kind of trucks and heavy vehicles and stuff like that. The proper name of the company is Edwin Foden Sons and Company. It hung around throughout, World War One, World War Two, right through until the kind of sort of late 70s, early 80s time. At which point the company actually went bankrupt and was purchased by another company called Pikas, who, they carried on making trucks under the Foden name, and eventually that all became part of British Leyland when they did the whole thing of trying to make the truck industry all one sort of thing. The smaller companies, they fused them together, which was a bit of a silly idea. It didn't really work out that well in the end, because now we don't really have a British motor industry anymore. We generally don't make our own trucks. We generally don't make our own cars. But anyways, that's the history lesson over. The Foden name kind of disappeared from trucks in the kind of early 2000s. They stopped producing them, and I think now Foden trucks are under the name of ERF or something like that, Earth. But yeah, this particular model of truck. One of the things that was distinguishing about Foden trucks was this kind of elaborate grille work and chrome work on the front, including the Foden company's logo, which was this kind of kite-shaped shield with the word Foden written across it. The vast majority of Foden trucks will have something along these lines on the kind of curved, which is chromed, and then the kite in the middle. But this particular model, it's kind of an early Rollermatics, because underneath one of the axles here, the second axle, we have this worm gear, and what the worm gear does is it connects to a set of teeth, which I very much doubt you can see, but I'm pointing at them, set of teeth which is mounted to the front of the concrete barrel, and so when the vehicle rolls along, the concrete barrel is supposed to turn. Unfortunately, on this example it doesn't, because the little post at the back that's supposed to hold the concrete barrel in place so that it can engage the front end of the gear on the front end of the barrel can engage with the worm gear, and then the back end, so it can all rotate. That little post at the back has long gone to the depths of history. But other than that, this model is actually really sort of good nick. The metal is nice and heavy, as they were made back in those days. Paint scratched, obviously, because this is a 50-60 year old toy. Over the years, it's probably brought a lot of joy to many children. It's had it's been on a few building sites, I think, because we've got some mud and dirt and everything under the axles and in the wheels and everything, so I'll need a good wash. Paint obviously is chipped and scraped away. The concrete barrel is a bit grimy. but otherwise there are no nicks, scuffs, scars, dints, whatever. It's aside from the dirt and the broken thing, it's practically perfect. So I'm going to restore it to its former glory, and I'm going to also add a little bit extra on there, you know, the detailing and things like that, to make it look a little bit more realistic. You know, I generally don't go for straight restos on things. I do like them to look a bit more realistic and have a little bit of personality to them. But oh yeah, just mentioning the glass, the windscreen glass, the plastic bubble that's used in the windscreen glass is a blue tint, and doesn't appear to have any kind of scratches, dints or anything on it. It's perfect. It's nearly perfect. I'd say it's about 90% there. It just needs a bit of a clean and a little bit of a spit and polish. But yeah, it's nice. I got this one out of a rummage box. There's a stall on the market here in Doncaster that he has various toys, and he has rummage boxes of Matchbox and Star Wars figures, things like that. And yeah, found it in one of his rummage boxes. Bought it together with a load of other stuff. Nice price on the lot. You know, he knows that I like to collect and restore these, so you know, he charges me, you know, kind of friend prices and not pleb prices, you know, randomers just coming up and buying one or two things. So yeah, held together by two very, very tiny mushrooms and a clip at the front. So I'm going to assume, because the main body is actually all this red bit here, I'm going to assume that popping these two rivets will loosen it up, and then I'll get that little tab out there, and I'm assuming then that once this bottom piece, it's all just going to fall apart. I'm going to do that off camera because this one could be a little difficult. Then when we come back, we'll have the parts and we can have a look at them. So I'll be back to you shortly.
Several days later.
Right, so we're back, and as I thought, the drilling out these two little rivets, as soon as they popped, the cab came off, and then everything else came off straight after it. I used a 3mm drill bit to go through these, and just the pressure of putting the drill bit in there, you know, even on a slow speed, just the pressure of that helped the rivets to pop out. And you know, it was like that, and I just pressed in and pop, off it came. So yeah, so the chassis, great condition. I really should take the wheels off for this. Unfortunately, my skills at putting you know, these type of wheels back on aren't very good. I don't have, I mean, it might sound daft, but I don't have a you know, a ball peen hammer to, you know, round off the edges. And I've done it before where I've just used a normal flat hammer and sat there and tapped away for a while, and it does do it, but never really very good. So I'm not going to take the wheels off the bottom of this one. I'll just have to paint around it, which means I'm going to have to use masking tape to mask off the wheels and the worm gear here. But yeah, the worm gear is very grubby, so that'll be getting a good scrub with some hot soapy water to get all the crap out of the teeth, which is great. The front cab, there's absolutely no problems with the front cab. It's not damaged in any way, just needs a strip and a repaint. The windscreen, getting the windscreen out was a little hairy, you know, a bit of a hair raising experience, because it was held in by a larger rivet inside. I tried using the 3mm drill bit first, but that wouldn't budge it. So I switched to the 5mm drill bit, ground it out until basically I'd ground the metal right down to the plastic, just widened the hole a little bit, and thought, you know, if I tap it a few times that'll drop out. Nope, that didn't work. You know, 50 odd years of being sat there, it doesn't really want to move, so I had to use the old persuasion method with the screwdriver, which I don't like doing, because as what happened in this case, as I did it and as it popped out, I heard a crack, and immediately as soon as I heard that crack, you know, you can tend something, shit, I've just broke the windscreen. It wasn't though, it was just basically the plastic kind of cracking away from the post that's in there. No damage, and we're still left with a nice windscreen that does indeed, on close inspection, does indeed have a scratch across the middle, but nothing major, nothing that make me want to throw it away and try and source a new one. So yeah, the cab and the windscreen. The barrel, concrete barrel, like I say, it's a bit grimy, so that'll be getting a wash. Well, a lot of it will be getting a wash anyway. because there's no point in throwing it in the paint stripper when it's covered in mud. Yeah, the barrel grimy, but the teeth on the main gear are great. No need to do anything with them. Just a clean up needed, and the fix is right here where the little post that holds it into the hole at the back of the concrete mixer. You see there where it's rubbed against the paint in there, creating an area where there's paint, but it should sit like that. And you know, with the teeth engaged with the worm gear, and as the wheels turn, the concrete mixer also turns, you know, so that's how it is. So I just need to basically make a new little post to go through that hole, and that shouldn't be too hard, you know. Just maybe even I could get away with using just a cocktail stick or something like that. It doesn't need to be a massive post, so there we are. So yeah, there we are. I'm gonna bang these in a nice tub of hot soapy water for a bit of a soak, and yeah, when we come back we'll stick them in for a soak, and then I'm going to chuck the carb in the paint stripper. I'm going to have to be really careful stripping the paint off the chassis because I don't want to get any of the paint stripper on the plastic. It's times like this where I, you know, should use something like caustic soda, but I ain't touching that stuff ever, because I know that I'll end up burning myself or destroying something with that particular, you know, abrasive caustic mix of chemicals. I may have to paint on paint stripper on this and then just leave it to do its work, because getting paint stripper on the wheels will destroy them. Getting paint stripper on the worm gear will destroy it. I'm starting to think now maybe it might be worth taking the risk of removing the wheels. We'll see what happens. So yeah, when we come back, hopefully all this will be stripped and ready to paint.
12 seconds later.
Okay, so after the washing session we're back, and yes, I took the wheels off, something I really hope I don't regret doing later in the line. But yep, so these two parts are ready for the paint stripper, and all these parts are the bits that are plastic and whatnot. Even though the wheels did come off, I used the old-fashioned method of getting them off. I couldn't be bothered getting the knock Dremel out to grind off the little mushrooms at the small ends. I kept the big mushrooms on and just used a file to scrape off the, what they call it, the little bits of peening at the other end. I did notice though when they come off, some of the axle pins are bent, so I've bent those back into more or less straight, and that I don't think I did any damage to the wheels while they're off, but there are a hell of a lot of them. So there we are. But yep, that's where we're at now. This lot's going in the paint stripper. This lot is going in a pot at the side to wait until this is done, and then we can start painting.
Eventually.
And we're back again. Right, here's where we are so far. I didn't bother recording me doing any of the painting or anything like that. Quite simply, there was nothing to see. The base, you know, the base paint jobs on them quite simple, you know, red for the chassis, yellow for the cab. I also gave the concrete barrel a bit of a spruce up by giving it a coat of yellow as well, and then just decided to add a little bit of detail onto it by putting a strip of red PVC tape around it, just to stand out a little bit, you know, the yellow cab and then the yellow mixer behind it, you know, nothing there to kind of, you know, to sort of break up the colour kind of thing. I've also done a repair on the concrete barrel. I'm not touching these at the minute because I lacquered everything about an hour or so ago, and they've been on the, you know, the hot radiator, you know, drying off and curing since then, and I just want to make sure that everything is you know, that the lacquer layer is rock solid before I touch any of the metal bits. But yeah, I repaired, or did a repair on the concrete barrel by just drilling a hole in it and then gluing a cocktail stick through, and then sleeving the cocktail stick with the tubing from a cotton bud. This gives it the size and thickness, well, basically the thickness it needs to be able to go through the hole in the back of the concrete mixer here, and you know, to be able to grip and rotate. I just need to clip it down to size. That's all I need to do. So I left it long so I'd have something to grab hold of. I masked off the main cog on here, which you doesn't need paint on it because you'll never see it. You know, it's going to be inside this back section of the cab here. So there we go. So yeah, I've put detailing on. I'm not going to show you, well, you can't see it up close at the minute because obviously this camera's a bit crap. It has a focal distance of about 18 inches, and you know, if you try and bring anything into close up, it just fuzzes everything up. It's one of the things. I mean, I got this camera 10 years ago. You know, meh. But yeah, I've given everything I like, including the wheels. I gave them a clean off to get rid of all the mud and crap that was built up on them, then gave them a bit of a tire wash just to darken them back down again because they were sort of grey and, you know, kind of grey and scuffed up and everything like that. So they got a tire wash, and then once that had dried, stuck lacquer over them. Had to make this little thing out of lollipop sticks and cocktail sticks to put the tyres on, and it didn't come out very well, but you know, hey, it functions. You know, it functions for the function I wanted it to. But yep, so once all the lacquer and everything is dry on this, we'll come back, we'll put them back together and get those wheels back on, and the worm gear that's in here. Funny thing, the Superfast version of this, which came afterwards, which was released in the Superfast version, I think came in 1970, did away with the cog and worm gear arrangement. Basically, you could rotate the concrete barrel just by using your finger, but it didn't rotate there. They also put a base on it and got rid of some because the Superfast wheels had thinner axles and smaller wheels, so they didn't need all this stuff, and then they put a plastic base on the bottom. So that's how you could tell the difference between this early version and the Superfast version that came later. Bit of a geek out, sort of nerdy research into it, but I'd quite like to get the other version actually, and then I might, if I do get the other version, I'll do it up, I'll kind of restore it, but I'll do it the other way around. Instead of having red chassis and yellow cab, I'll do, you know, yellow chassis and red cab with a red barrel, you know, just to make it look different, even though it's the same vehicle, just a different version of the same vehicle. So yeah, there we are so far. Like I said, when we come back, we'll put everything together, hopefully get those wheels back on and the worm gear, and then get it rolling again.
20 minutes later.
And here we are, everything sorted and ready to go. I got the wheels back on the chassis without any problems. I really don't like removing these sorts of wheels from things because sometimes they won't go back in, and then you haven't got enough material left over to knock down. I haven't actually mushroomed these over. What I did was, when I took them off, I left a slight mushroom on there, so that basically when they push through, they've still got something to grab hold of on the other side. So that's the thing. The worm gear is back installed in its proper place, and it's rolling nicely. Even when you roll it on just the tail there, it rolls away nicely. Concrete barrel, I've what they call it there we go, that's what they call it there, and I've clipped down the little tab to keep it in place. There's the cab all ready and everything. There's the windscreen. So we're gonna put everything back together, and I've done a test fit on this before I put any well, before I started filming this, and the concrete barrel fits in perfectly. The only problem is that it doesn't like to roll. I'm going to use super glue to put the glass back in. There we go. Just put a little dab of super glue in there, give it a minute to dry. Yeah, the concrete barrel, it's when I put it in and then put the cab on, you know, just as a test fit to make sure everything was, you know, going to go securely back together and within tolerance and everything. See, it sits fine as it is there, but then when I put the cab on, it appears that the paint I've put on it, plus the layer of lacquer and everything, I've not painted over the cog and the worm gear, but it appears that somewhere in there I've gone just slightly over tolerance. I mean, I can see on the back here where it's scraped away some of the paint. So I'm thinking, in order to get it to rotate smoothly, because it does rotate, it's just that it's very, very tight. I'm thinking I may just have to kind of sand off that a little bit, just take it down a little while. It doesn't matter about the paint being on it because you can't actually see that once everything's back in place. Or apply some lubricant to the cog shaft here, just a little bit of lubricant, maybe a bit of silicone grease or something like that. Apply some lubricant to that and to I was going to say to the teeth of the gear, the teeth of the gear and the cog. That will pick up a lot of dirt though, and it won't really be worth it. But I will put this back on just to show you. I'm not going to do the final glue just yet until I am happy that the barrel's tolerance is fine for just jimmy things around. That's it. It's locked back in. Well, it's locked back into its holes. Everything goes nicely. So let's roll it. And nope, those wheels ain't rolling because it's too tight. But you can sort of see when I force the wheels to rotate, the drum does actually rotate. I was going to put like lines on it so you could actually see the drum rotating. But yeah, it does work. It's just I need to grease up that. In fact, I can actually see where it's scraping against it. So yeah, so I'm not going to glue it together just now, but this is how it looks, all assembled and all together and everything, nice and fresh and everything. Some close-up pictures will follow of the the more finer details, because there is a lot of detail on there that Matchbox didn't seem to want to, or Lesney rather, didn't seem to want to fill in. So things like these little grills and this little battery box here on the side, and then all these nice little bits on the front, the chute for the concrete to come out of, and little gears, and there's a little control panel here for the control panel here, and another little control panel for the motor here. But yeah, I'll finish off. I'll sort out take some pictures, and do the final glue off camera. And that's what I say. You'll see the final close-up pictures of all the detail at the end. So thank you for watching so far, and hopefully hopefully I'll see you next time, provided nothing happens to me, like I don't know, getting hit by a meteor or something like that, because there is a chance it could happen. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.